What unfolded in the House of Commons was not a routine parliamentary roasting, but a full-scale demolition. On a day meant to showcase Labour's momentum after a year in government, Keir Starmer stood exposed, emotionless, flat-footed, and utterly humiliated. Graham Stuart wasn't merely poking fun. He delivered a performance so blistering, so gleefully brutal, that even Labour's own backbenches couldn't resist laughing. For those already weary of the political games tearing Britain apart, it was a striking reminder of why truth, accountability, and leadership that listens are so desperately needed. The damage began with Stuart's perfectly timed masterstroke of sarcasm. With a smirk, he congratulated the Prime Minister on surviving his first year in office, pausing just long enough to let the chamber breathe before twisting the knife, for doing so without a single genuine emotion, expressed without a single promise kept, and with an economic record that made Liz Truss look like Margaret Thatcher. The room erupted. MPs roared with laughter, papers were slapped against benches, and the kind of chaos you cannot fake in Westminster swept across the chamber. This wasn't just Tory amusement. Even Labour MPs were caught suppressing grins as their leader sat motionless, the fake smile slipping from his face like damp wallpaper. But Stuart wasn't finished. Locking eyes with Starmer, he skewered the Labour manifesto, a beautifully written, uplifting, optimistic national bestseller in all the ways that matter, except for telling the truth. Then, with clinical precision, he added, a total pack of lies. The laughter rolled again. Starmer blinked, but didn't move, his carefully polished stoicism mistaken by strategists for leadership, revealing itself as emotional absence. He looked like a man forced to deliver a mauvais eulogy while being pelted with tomatoes. The body blow came next. With mock courtesy, Stuart suggested the Prime Minister recommend a summer read for his party, a gripping story full of hope, full of fantasy, full of promises that vanish after Chapter 1. May I humbly suggest the Labour Manifesto? Even the Speaker of the House couldn't hide his grin as MPs broke into waves of laughter, some rising in mock applause while the Speaker's gavel pounded in vain. By then, the chamber had transformed into a comedy club, and Keir Starmer was the punchline. When Starmer finally stood to respond, Labour's carefully managed image came apart. He did what he always does. He rehearsed. Instead of reacting or punching back, he retreated into preloaded lines, defending the manifesto with the energy of a man reciting tax codes. This government was elected with a clear mandate, he droned, insisting it was a landslide victory and that his party was delivering growth, stability, and fairness. But the words fell flat. His delivery was stiff, his tone mechanical, his face expressionless. The chamber had already moved on. Murmurs grew, heckling stirred, muffled laughter spread, and even his own MPs squirmed in visible discomfort, some looking ready to slide under their benches from second-hand embarrassment. In that moment, the political reality was laid bare. Starmer cannot improvise. He cannot pivot. He cannot punch back. His leadership is not built to withstand authenticity. Graham Stuart, by contrast, wielded it effortlessly authentic mockery, real laughter, impeccable timing, no notes, no rehearsal. And the most devastating blow was that he didn't need to gloat. He simply sat, back, grinning, satisfied in the knowledge that the demolition was complete. In just 2 minutes of sharp satire, Graham Stuart achieved more than Keir Starmer has managed in a year of committee-approved speeches. The silence that followed Starmer's attempt to reassert authority was damning, not because he said the wrong thing, but because nobody cared. In politics, scandals and policy disasters can be survived, but ridicule is fatal. When your own party struggles to defend you without laughing, your leadership is already hollow. Starmer, long the master of manufactured control, found himself in a realm where control means nothing, because humor cannot be spun, fact-checked, or media-trained away. Presence either exists or it doesn't, and Starmer has none. The real headline wasn't about policy or ideology, but personality. He was outmatched by wit. Labour's own backbenches laughed, and when your troops are laughing at you, you're no longer leading, you're just enduring. Beyond Westminster, the symbolism was just as brutal. This wasn't about arguments or data, but about a prime minister who became the punchline. Stuart's satire cut deeper than any scandal, stripping away the illusion that polish equals leadership and revealing a man unable to adapt, connect, or inspire. Labour, once the voice of workers, now looked like a corporate rebrand. Glossy performance scripted by people far removed from the struggles it claims to represent. Starmer's flat, robotic response only amplified the humiliation, confirming that the suit remained, but the power had gone. And in British politics, being boring is not safe, it is fatal. On that day, Starmer wasn't defeated by scandal or opposition, but by laughter, the kind that peels away authority and leaves only weakness exposed. He suddenly realized the ground had shifted beneath him. This was no longer a moment for policy soundbites, but a test of presence, a chance to show he had energy, wit, and the ability to turn a joke to his advantage. Instead, he froze, looking stunned and cornered. You could feel the shift in the room. The mood changed instantly. LABOURMP's smiles hardened into grimaces. Those defending Starmer on television later that evening resembled hostages more than believers, because deep down, they knew the truth. The Prime Minister hadn't been mocked by the press, the opposition, or the public. It was reality itself doing the mocking. And it wasn't just about one exchange. This had been building for months. The party faithful were promised boldness, clarity, and a clean break from Tory decay. What they received instead was a leader obsessed with composure, professionalism, and absolute risk avoidance. Starmer had become the political equivalent of a soggy biscuit, technically functional, utterly uninspiring. You can consume it, but you don't enjoy it, and once you've had a taste of something with real flavor, you never go back. Graham Stuart became that flavor, that interruption, saying openly what Starmer's own allies were too timid to voice. He delivered it with humor, with satire, with truth dressed as playfulness, and the most devastating part was that it worked. The moment didn't. Just humiliate Starmer. It united the room. For a brief spell, MPs of every striped Tory, Lib Dem, and even some Labour were in on the same joke. That was when Starmer lost control, not just of the debate, but of the narrative itself. From that point forward, every time he stood at the dispatch box, the echo of laughter would hang in the air. Each reference to the manifesto would feel like fiction. Each polished deflection would trigger a smirk, a reminder of the summer. Reading jibe. It isn't fair. It isn't about policy, but it is real. Politics is perception, and perception just turned against him. What Stuart tapped into was bigger than Starmer himself. It revealed how exhausted people are with empty political theater that offers no catharsis. They don't want actors. They want fighters leaders who speak plainly, joke freely, and strike a chord. They are tired of being managed, tired of condescension, tired of politicians treating charisma as a liability. Starmer's team will no doubt dismiss it as one rough session, plain Tory spin or cheap shots. But inside, they know something cracked that day, and they fear it, because it cannot be fixed by policy. This is not a policy problem. It's a presence problem. Starmer is what happens when every sharp edge, every trace of raw emotion, every flicker of courage is stripped away and replaced with inoffensive efficiency. He is the algorithmic politician, risk-free, polished, designed for control, that works on paper, in press releases, in debates where everyone abides by the rules. But it collapses when someone like Stuart rips up the script. Labour won't say it aloud, but that moment resonated with voters, with staffers, with members because it exposed what many had felt but couldn't articulate. Starmer is pretending. Pretending to lead, pretending to connect, pretending to feel. And people are tired of pretending with him. The true danger is metastasis. Humiliation doesn't remain confined to Parliament. It spreads. It leaks into every media appearance, every doorstep conversation, every headline. It mutates into a meme, a running joke, a symbol of weakness. The phrase summer reading risks becoming Starmer's equivalent of Ed Miliband's bacon sandwich. Single moment crystallizing the failure to connect. Once that happens, no manifesto, no policy pivot, no relaunch can undo it. Because politics is emotional at its core. It is about trust. And once people laugh at you, they stop trusting you. Graham Stuart didn't just humiliate Keir Starmer. He shattered the illusion that Starmer's discipline, caution, and polish could one day feel authentic. That myth is finished. From here, everything becomes harder. Every PMQs will be a minefield. Every off-script moment a liability. Every attempt to project strength will be refracted through that one moment, the moment Keir Starmer lost control. He stood before the nation, spoke his piece, and was laughed out of the room. For Labour, that laughter sparked the question they had hoped never to face. Is Keir Starmer the wrong man? And for voters, a darker question followed. Is this really the best we've got? 14 years of Tory chaos, scandal, and mismanagement should have given Labour an easy stage. Yet Graham Stuart proved one thing beyond doubt. The public will not settle for silence dressed in a suit. They want voice, energy, and conviction. They want leaders to fight for them, not ones they laugh at. Starmer, once the grown-up in the room, now risks becoming a punchline, and in British politics, laughter of that kind is almost always fatal. Starmer built his identity on steadiness measured, calm, reliable, a welcome contrast to Tory psychodrama and Corbynite turbulence. That posture reassured donors, soothed centrists, and bought Labour time. But the country's mood has shifted. Stability no longer satisfies. People are hungry for sincerity. And sincerity is something Starmer has never convincingly displayed. The public sees it, his colleagues feel it, and Stuart's performance dragged it into the open. He didn't just expose Starmer's weaknesses, he revealed the hollow center of the Labour project under his leadership. The man promising to rebuild Britain suddenly looked like an exhausted bureaucrat reading compliance notes. The contrast was brutal. Faced with ridicule, Starmer fell back on mechanical defenses of a mandate and vision, sounding less like a leader and more like a man lost inside a spreadsheet, dragging a lifeless narrative forward. No passion, no fire, no fight. Voters notice these things. They can tell when a politician believes what they say and when they're simply reciting lines. And Starmer, for all his polish, bleeds for nothing. That is what made Stuart's satire so lethal. It didn't challenge his policies. It mocked his presence. It accused him not of being wrong, but of being irrelevant. The laughter confirmed it. When mockery comes not only from opponents, but from colleagues and the press, it marks a deeper shift. Not disagreement, but dismissal. Authority drains away, leaving only the trappings of power. And Starmer, for all his strategic positioning, doesn't command authority. He doesn't own rooms, seize moments, or inspire. He merely survives them. But survival without inspiration is slow political death. From now on, every appearance, every interview, every campaign stop will carry the same tension. When will the stiffness show? When will the rehearsed line fall flat? When will the room laugh again? And laughter, once it sticks, becomes poison. It recasts every word in irony, every promise in embarrassment. That is the trap Stuart set, and Starmer walked into it. Because this is not the man you send into a crisis, nor the leader you want at the dispatch box during national trauma. nor the figure who can connect with people at their lowest. This is a man who, faced with derision, couldn't muster even a smile. A man who answered laughter with mechanical recitation. If he cannot withstand ridicule, how can he withstand the pressures of governing a country? That is the question now hanging in the air, one the public will keep asking, watching, and laughing. 4. Starmer, the trial is no longer about Labour's policies. It's about him.